For a long stretch in the 90s, tribute albums became a thing. No, we're not talking about boring cover bands, but the biggest artists of the decade recording old songs in a various artists' compilation album. It's odd to look back on it now, but every record label, big and small, had their own tribute releases, and fans ate that thing up. But before we get into it, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you love 90s nostalgia content. Are tribute albums a good thing? Heck no. For most people, there was one or two songs they liked from artists they loved, and everything else was filler. Every song feels hit or miss. However, there were standouts in that huge pile of weird 90s tribute albums, and we're running them down here. Let's get into it. Red Hot plus Blue. We're starting strong with what might be the most important benefit album of the entire decade, which is named after Cole Porter's musical production, Red Hot and Blue. So picture this. It's 1990. The AIDS crisis is still heavily stigmatized. People are dying, and the music industry decides to do something about it. They took Cole Porter's classic songs and got the biggest names in music to cover them, raising money and awareness for AIDS research. Nina Cherry's video for I Got You Under My Skin was absolutely groundbreaking for its time. U2's Night and Day was everywhere on MTV. This was stylish, serious, and star-studded, feeling like a real moment when pop culture actually grew a conscience. If you want to understand how the 90s was different from the 80s, this album is where it starts. If I Were a Carpenter. Okay. So imagine you're a flannel-wearing grunge kid in 1994. You listen to Sonic Youth, and you're too cool for mainstream pop. But secretly, you kind of love the Carpenters. Well, this is the album that made it okay to admit that. Sonic Youth, the Cranberries, and Red Cross took those sugary, perfectly produced Carpenters songs and gave them a fuzzy, alt-rock makeover. But the real star here is Sonic Youth's version of Superstar. They stripped away all the polish and found this desperate, haunting sadness underneath. It's the exact same song, but it hits completely different. It was cool, ironic, and genuinely beautiful all at the same time. This album summed up the sound of the early 90s quite well. I'm Your Fan, the songs of Leonard Cohen. Before Shrek, yes, that Shrek, made everyone completely sick of Hallelujah, John Cale recorded his version for this tribute album. And Cale's version is what inspired Jeff Buckley to do his cover, which is probably the version you're thinking of right now. So basically, this album is responsible for every emotional Hallelujah cover at every talent show, wedding, and funeral for the next 3 decades. We're guessing it's responsible for the Shrek cover too, although we'll just forget about that. But seriously, the track list is insane. R.E.M., The Pixies, Nick Cave, basically a who's who of college rock royalty. They reintroduced Leonard Cohen to an entire generation of brooding art students and proved that his songwriting was completely bulletproof, no matter how much distortion and feedback you threw at it. Saturday Morning Cartoons Greatest Hits, 1995. Okay, this might actually be the most fun tribute album of the entire decade. The concept was pure genius. Take all the noisy alt-rock bands of 1995 and have them cover the Saturday morning cartoon themes they grew up watching. Matthew Sweet turned Scooby-Doo into a power pop anthem. The Butthole Surfers completely deconstructed Underdog while doing one of the greatest cartoon theme songs the justice it deserves. And Sublime doing Hong Kong Phooey? That track alone is worth hunting down this album. More than a collection of cartoon music, it was pure, cereal and milk-fueled nostalgia in audio form. It's an absolute time capsule of Gen X childhood wrapped up in fuzzy guitars and attitude. Common Thread, The Songs of the Eagles, 1993. You could not escape this album in 1993. It was at your dentist's office, your mom owned it, it was selling millions of copies and basically bridging the gap between 70s rock radio and 90s Garth Brooks country mania. Heck, it even won Album of the Year at the CMA Awards. But here's where it gets interesting. Travis Tritt did Take It Easy and got the actual Eagles to reunite for the music video. This was huge because the Eagles had broken up years earlier and weren't on speaking terms. That video shoot led directly to their Hell Freezes Over tour, which made them millions of dollars. So this tribute album didn't just honor the Eagles, it accidentally resurrected them. The entire reunion tour happened because of this album. Wild. Sweet Relief, a benefit for Victoria Williams, 1993. All right, grab your tissues because this one hits right in the feels. Victoria Williams was a talented songwriter who got diagnosed with MS and couldn't afford her medical bills. So what did the music community do? They rallied around her and made an entire tribute album, with all proceeds going to help her out. Pearl Jam covered Crazy Mary, and it became a staple of their live shows. Honestly, my friend thinks it's better than half the songs on their album Verses, and she's willing to die on that hill. She continues to be a massive hater to this day. The impact of this tribute went beyond just one album, as it ended up launching the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund, which has helped countless musicians with medical expenses ever since. So much for the slacker generation not caring about anything, right? Nativity in Black, a tribute to Black Sabbath, 1994. In the mid-90s, metal was going through a major identity crisis. Grunge had taken over, nu metal was starting to emerge, and everyone was trying to figure out where heavy music's place was going to be. This album was like a history lesson showing exactly where it all came from. Type O Negative's doom-laden version of Black Sabbath is legendary, dark, heavy, and absolutely crushing. Faith No More ripping through War Pigs live was a revelation for anyone who caught it. These songs felt more than simple covers. Instead, these were the new proponents of heavy music paying respect to the riffs that started it all. While not exactly a passing of the torch, it felt like a rallying cry to the bands keeping heavy music alive at the thick of the grunge explosion. Kiss My Ass, classic Kiss regrooved, 1994. Kiss has never met a piece of merchandise they didn't want to sell, but this tribute album ended up being fascinatingly weird, in the best way. You've got Garth Brooks, yes, country superstar Garth Brooks, playing with the actual Kiss members. Lenny Kravitz is funkifying Deuce. The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones went full ska-core on Detroit Rock City. It was an absolute disjointed mess, but it perfectly captures the chaotic, genre-blending spirit of 1994. Nobody knew what they were doing. Everyone was just throwing sounds at the wall, and it was fun, dumb, and loud. No different from the way Kiss always has been. Encomium, a tribute to Led Zeppelin, 1995. If you turned on rock radio in 1995, you heard Stone Temple Pilots' Dancing Days about 1,000 times. You also heard Hootie and the Blowfish doing Hey Hey, What Can I Do? STP and Hootie on the radio, both covering Led Zeppelin. The 90s were truly a lawless time. This was the big-budget, major-label tribute done right. Sure, some covers were too faithful to be interesting, but 4 non-blondes doing Misty Mountain Hop remains a guilty pleasure that I will defend to this day. This album basically solidified Led Zeppelin's status as the rock gods that every 90s alternative band was secretly worshipping. Schoolhouse Rock rocks, 1996. Following the success of Saturday Morning Cartoons Greatest Hits, someone said, "Hey, what about those educational cartoons we watched while skipping class?" And thus, this masterpiece was born. Blind Melon's 3 is a Magic Number is heartbreakingly beautiful, especially knowing that lead singer Shannon Hoon had passed away the year before the album came out. The nostalgia just hits different. Pavement doing No More Kings is the most Pavement thing ever recorded. If you know, you know. Dedicated, a tribute to the Grateful Dead, 1991. Here's the thing about the Grateful Dead. They're one of those bands that people either love or completely don't understand. They're jam bands. They've got this whole hippie culture around them, and by the 90s, they felt kind of safe? Unthreatening? Well, Jane's Addiction said, "Hold my beer," and made the Dead sound dangerous again. This album featured some of the biggest alternative and indie bands of the early 90s, taking these sprawling, noodling Dead songs and injecting them with punk energy and alt-rock attitude. It was a reminder that before the Dead became your dad's favorite band to see at outdoor festivals, they were actually kind of subversive and weird. The album works because these artists genuinely respected the source material while making it their own. It's a tribute album done right. Stone Free, a tribute to Jimi Hendrix, 1993. This album is wildly uneven, but that's what makes it fascinating. You've got The Cure doing Hendrix. You've got Ice-T's Body Count doing Hendrix. You've got Eric Clapton, who actually knew Hendrix, doing Hendrix. The tonal whiplash is intense, but that's the beauty of it. Jimi Hendrix influenced so many different genres that you can have goth rock, metal, and blues all trying to capture his spirit on the same album. Some tracks are brilliant, some are questionable, but all of them prove just how massive Hendrix's influence really was. If you want to understand how one guitarist changed literally everything, this album is a pretty good crash course. Two Rooms, celebrating the songs of Elton John and Bernie Taupin, 1991. This was a massive commercial hit, and honestly, it's easy to see why. Nearly every song written by Elton John and Bernie Taupin are really hard to mess up, as they work in most genres and most style. But the standout here is Kate Bush doing Rocket Man. It's ethereal, it's haunting, it's brilliant. She takes this song about an astronaut feeling lonely and turns it into something that sounds like it was transmitted from actual outer space. The rest of the album is a bit more adult contemporary, so those with more edgy tastes might not enjoy it quite as much. The Kate Bush track, though, makes this worth checking out, especially now, when you can just stream it. Working Class Hero, a tribute to John Lennon, 1995. This album came out about 15 years after Lennon's death, and by 1995, the 90s generation was ready to reclaim him from the boomers. Red Hot Chili Peppers and Mad Season both showed up with genuinely great covers, but the album works because it doesn't try to be reverential or safe. These artists approach Lennon's music with the same punk energy and raw emotion that fueled Lennon's own rebellious streak. It's way better than you probably remember, and it's worth revisiting if you wrote it off as just another cash grab tribute album. There's real heart here. Violent World, a tribute to the Misfits, 1997. For the skate punk crowd, this was essential listening. Pennywise, NoFX, and a bunch of other bands from the Fat Records and Epitaph roster covering the Misfits? That's basically the soundtrack to every skate video from 1997 to 1999. The Misfits were always this underground horror punk band that influenced way more people than they ever got credit for. And this album brought them to a whole new generation of kids who were into punk rock and skateboarding. If you were into Warped Tour culture, you definitely owned this album, or at least had it on a burned CD from a friend.